Hello, calligrapher friends. Erin here. Hello. So today is going to be a little bit of teaching, and I'd like to introduce, look, I have a thing that holds my iPad up, which means I have space on my desk. Yay! This is all wonderful news, because now I have space and I can properly sit here without trying to shove my body into my tiny little square of what the iPad shows. But now I can actually have space. It's so nice. It wasn't too expensive, but when I move my desk, you can see it kind of moves around a little bit, which is interesting. So it might be a little wobbly. Might take a little bit getting used to, but trying. Also, the hair is pinned back today instead of being up because it's quite long right now. I need a haircut. Thankfully, I think next week or the week after I have an appointment because the salons are finally open. So, So anyways, back to actually calligraphy. So today what I wanted to do was, I have my little, where's my little notes? Hold on a minute. I had put them, there they are. I had them hidden. So I want to go over the warm-ups again and really do them. But then I also wanted to, oh no, your internet's bad. Well, I'm recording on my end. So also, hi Faith. I'm recording on my end as well. And it is available on Twitch after the fact. So if you need to rewatch something, you can go ahead and do that too. Not a problem. But yeah, I wanted to go and do the warm-ups, but I also wanted to introduce drills, because I hadn't really talked about that yet, and why they're important, and why I like them. So yeah, I just wanted to start doing that a little bit, and cool. All right, well, I'm gonna switch. There we go. Look, I have so much space. It's so nice. Yay! Oh, I'll move my. Move this here, move this here, move this here. There we go. So much space. Makes me so happy. I can zoom in a little bit and it's gonna be good. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. I'm not gonna be shoving my my paper into the box that I was essentially having my iPad precariously perched on. All right, so let's do some warm-ups. And yeah, get that started. So I mentioned this in my first stream when I was teaching, but I wanted to talk about it again because I've had someone else ask me to, what's with the fancy glove? So a lot of times if you see people do calligraphy, they won't wear a glove, which is totally fine. But what happens if you also don't use a glove and then don't use a guard sheet and you're doing a lot of work and repeating work on the same paper, your hand has oils. So that oil will end up transferring to your paper and then ink won't adhere very well. So you can usually use just a piece of paper or something like that, to rest your hand on. More than one occasion, what's happened with me is that I have 100% knocked that paper into wet ink and then have ruined my work. So I just got these little gloves. So it makes me look much more professional than I actually am. But it's okay. It's fine. We're all going to live in the world in which I am a master penman. Totally not true. That's fine. Also, normally, if you hear a bird in the background, that's mine. Because this cage is in my office. Normally he's not in here with me. My husband has him, but he has a call that he's on right now. So we might get a bird on my shoulder while I'm working. If he becomes too loud, I will put him in his other cage because he might end up yelling a lot because he hears my husband's voice and isn't with him. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that he's okay. But he may disappear as well and put him into his other cage. Hold on, let me see if I can get him onto my shoulder and let's see if he listens to me. Hold on. Come here. Come on, up. Up. This is Bruce. He is my green sheep conure. He is a parrot. Sometimes he sits nicely on my shoulders. Sometimes he likes to try and eat my fingers and climb all over me like I'm a jungle gym. So we're gonna try and do it with him we're gonna try and do this with him in the stream. This might not work though. He may have to go into his other cage, so we'll see. So we'll start with warm-ups. I'm not gonna use my guide today. I'm just gonna do it right on the paper. So, gonna do some ovals. I'm just doing it with a pencil, just to keep it nice and light. So I haven't been doing, I was doing some calligraphy this morning, but it was mostly on my iPad. I was digitizing some stuff. So it's not exactly the same type of work. Bruce, are you fine? You're fine. Come here. Come on. Here, I'll just hold him while I do my warm-ups. Well, unless he wants to climb anywhere else. So while I'm doing this warm-up, this lead in this particular pencil is not very soft, so it looks like it's all the same, but I am pressing down a little bit harder when I'm going down towards myself, and away I am going lighter. It's just harder to tell because this lead is a bit harder. Bruce, you're gonna go in your other cage. Yeah. So I'm going to go from that, I'm going to do some figure eights. Oh, this is so much better because I can actually sit properly because I have space under my arm. I'm also going to stretch my hands a little bit because, like I said, I was working on my iPad a lot today, which is not as big. It's very much in my wrist and my fingers, so I'm going to do a little bit of stretching myself. Excuse me. Just like pulling this down a little bit. He thinks I'm talking to him. There we go. All right. Oh, actually, what I wanted to do too, sorry, before we go crazy, is I wanted to show, I was digging around in my files today and I came across my old work when I had first started learning like 5 years ago. And I wanted to show, all right, he's after, hold on. I'm gonna do a little BRB. I'm gonna put him in his other cage. So he's not, cause like my mic is right here and I know he's gonna yell into it. So, all right, give me just 2 seconds. I'll write it back. Sorry about that. I guess he's just going to get more and more vocal because every time I talk a lot, he's like, oh, you're talking to me? And I'm like, no. Anyways, I wanted to show something, which was some of my old work when I first started learning, because I find that people get a little bit too, like, they get really mad at themselves when they don't get things right, like when they first start. So I wanted to show these was work that I had done in, I want to say 2015, after like 4 or 5 classes, or like classes of a workshop I had been taking from someone who actually did calligraphy full-time in the city. Shout out to @ImagineJoy in Montreal. Sup, Joy? She's great. She's a wonderful lady. She's so fab. So like, I really wanted to show examples of what beginner work looks like. And I practiced a lot, and like, look how much red is on here. And like, she was really kind. Like I'm looking at this and I'm like, ooh, there's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot to work on in this. So thanks, Joy, for not like ripping my work apart. But like, I look at it and I'm like, okay, like this is interesting for even me to look at too, because when I'm teaching actual like students one-on-one, what I'm looking at here and I'm seeing like, okay, like this is where I was starting. Okay, like it's easier for me to like gauge, you know, what growth would look like as well, because you always forget where you come from unless you have something like work and stuff. So like, my issues tended to be a lot of like, things were always like, my descenders are not great. I always went for circles instead of for ovals. I also was like pretty heavy-handed with my work. And again, this is after like a lot of practice. And like pages and pages and pages and pages of practice. And my pressure was never good. I was always super shaky. And then I was trying these other like variations and trying to like stretch things out for my like hand and my wrist and stuff. But again, other variations as well. Like this is getting a little bit better, but this is, I think, after like a year of work or something like that. And it's still like okay at best. Like it's not that fantastic. And then like, you know, when we get into magic skills, my magic skills are just not great. So I just really wanted to show this to tell people like it's not going to be perfect and it's not going to be good. And what you see me doing now is because like I practice a lot. And even now it's like not the best calligraphy you'll ever see in the world. I just do it a lot. So, you know, practice makes progress. And we're going to try and keep that in mind when we're working at home. And like, I have other things too that I'll look at and go like, oof, like it hurts when I see them. I'm just looking at my filing cabinet right now. If there's anything that's like really horrific. I think a lot of the really bad stuff I did toss because I was like, this is embarrassing. I literally can't. Let me see here. Yeah. Now, yeah, that's it. So any kind of time you guys are like doing any of your own work, I highly recommend like keeping some things and dating them, and just so you can look back and like really see how far you've come. Yeah. So, okay, so from that, like, let's get into some drills and some simple ones. So I had actually, I printed off my own guidelines for this one too, so it's a bit easier to see on camera versus on having my guidelines underneath the paper that you have to kind of like see through. I found this is a little bit easier, so let me open up my ink. I'm using a different pen holder today too, because I figured, why not? So some of the first drills that I wanted to go over I always find the zebra G's are always a pain to keep prepped. All right, so the first drill I kind of wanted to go through was just the descender line. So let me zoom that right in there. So this X height is 6 millimeters, the ascender is 9, and the descender is 9 millimeters. So, and oh yeah, and this is at 55 degrees. So these drills here are meant to keep you consistent in your angle. P.S. This paper is gonna feather, just as an FYI, because I wanted to print it. Like the printer paper I have is not great for calligraphy. I added gum arabic to my ink to try and make it feather, not as badly, but it's going to anyway. So I am fully aware. It's just more to show you the drills. So doing a little bit of this and doing these drills, especially when you're learning, is good. And like, you can tell that I didn't do any calligraphy really at all today, because like iPad calligraphy I find uses almost different muscle memory. Because you're not using as much pressure and release, because a lot of times the brushes will do a lot of the work for you. So this is good for width consistency, keeping your angle consistent, making your hand remember kind of how to do things automatically. So if you are doing work and you don't have time to put the 55 degree guidelines in place, it's okay. Like you can kind of get around there and be almost at that 55. And I'm letting the pen do a lot of the work for me. I'm not really pressing too hard. My husband just came out of his office, so if you hear the bird yelling in the back, it's because he's excited to hear someone else. Yeah, there you go. So, and again, I mean, you know, I'm inconsistent here, I'm inconsistent here. It's okay. These are drills. Like, in theory, you should be doing like a lot of these. I'm also making sure when I'm pulling down, my nib is pretty much in line with that 55 degree guideline that is right here. My hand is pretty relaxed, especially because I was doing just some quick pencil warm-ups before. But yeah, so that's like the first drill. So it's just like the descender drill. I don't really have names for these. I'm sure there are names for them, I just don't know them. Another one is a good one. It's the compound curve one, which is a good one. I like doing it bigger than you need it to be, because the compound curve normally is in the X height is right here. But one it's fun is this guy. Is my hair gonna get into? Okay, no, I have to lean. I was like, is my hair gonna get into frame? But only if I go really far forward. Cool. So we're going up and then down. So the weight should be on that 55 degree. And this again is just to get you more practiced into the weight and the pressure and release of your nib, and like understanding like automatically, okay, like this is where this needs to go. You know, they can throw a little one in there and then up and then down, kind of like that. So this is also a good drill. When I was just learning, I would probably fill at least 2 lines with the same drill over and over again. Yeah, I would say, give or take. Then I have these ones, which are, you know, we're familiar with these. These are just kind of your counterclockwise swirls. They're not perfect, they don't need to be. Then we're going to be going into some clockwise ones. Which we're familiar with as well. Again, they don't need to be perfect, but we're trying for at least, you know, some consistency in distance around here. We're trying to make sure that when we're pulling towards us, there's going to be weight here in the middle. And we're going to be trying to make that oval shape on that 55-degree angle. So then we have here, we have our infinity sign, our little kind of mini figure eights everywhere. Totally going off camera. Sorry about that. So we're trying to make sure that the thicks are on the 55. That's the goal. Is it always happening? No, that's all right. But that's what we're trying to aim for. And then the last one I'll show you is the oval. So you can, Sarah Script or Sarah Richardson on Instagram, she has a 100 ovals challenge, which is a good one. I think if you, is it on her website? I believe so. If you go to her website, she has a printable PDF that you can print off that has the ovals there that you can just kind of follow, which is a good one as well. So, you know, I go there and check it out. But the oval drills are good too, because as I've mentioned before, ovals are a huge part of Copperplate. You can find ovals in like I think all the letters. They're somewhere in there. This is what we're going for. So, and I've mentioned before, a lot of people do their ovals from the top. I have the habit of doing them from the side and bringing them back up again. I think this way is probably the more traditional way. I actually don't know. It's just this way is the way I was taught. So that's kind of just where my hand goes. But both are fine. But yeah, just honestly doing a bunch of ovals and trying to be consistent. Something that I like to, when I'm doing practice for myself, is after like, you know, 3 or 4 of trying to be pretty consistent, because right now I'm going pretty fast, but I would stop and then look and be like, okay, what am I trying to improve? What does this look like? This one here, it's off the baseline. This one's a bit wider than this one, but this one and this one are about the same width. So, you know, you take a look, you analyze your work, and you go, okay, like, let me work on making sure I hit the baseline. Okay, so I'm hitting the baseline now. Then I'm looking, I'm like, okay, my weight is more high up here. Okay, so in my next couple, I'm gonna try and go more evenly distributed, but then also still hitting the baseline. Like, that's kind of how I go through when I'm doing like actual like drills or warm-ups or trying to work on something very specifically. I stop every like few and then look and try and fix it in for the next like 3 or 4. Because the worst thing that I don't like doing, because I do it because I'm lazy sometimes, is like I'll just do them. I'll do the exercises for doing the exercises, but then I'm like putting in muscle memory the wrong moves in my hand, and then I have to go back and fix it later because I'm like, oh, my S's aren't proper because I didn't care so much about like doing proper study or analysis of what I was doing. So those are those guys for the drills. I will unzoom and kind of leave that there for a sec. while I grab... Oh. One moment, I have a message from someone. Oh, actually, what I'll do is I'll keep my phone open on the chat, because sometimes I don't always look at the, because I have the chat on my screen here, but sometimes I'll see it better if it's on my table over here. Yeah, all right, cool. So the next one, well, actually, sorry, I'll go back. So in my first live, I did the basic strokes, and then last week I did letter group 1, and then so this week we're going to do letter group 2 and possibly 3, depending on how long it takes. We shall see. So, because I don't want it to be a crazy super long stream, like over 2 hours or anything like that today. I'd prefer it to keep it at around an hour, hour and a half. So we'll see how far we get. So I'll move that one out of the way. And I will go into letter group 2. So I will actually start with a pencil first. So, and I'll zoom in. So letter group 2, they're the looped letters. Sorry, I also need to sharpen my pencil. There we go. So they're the looped letters. So L, H, K, and E. So I'll give you a wild guess about why they're looped letters, because they're looped. So we have our L, we have our H, we have our K. There's so many different ways to do a K. So there's this way to do a K, there's this way to do a K, there's this way to do a K. Many different ways, many different variations. And then we have your letter E. So for the letter L, I know that, myself included, when I first started, I wanted to just do an L like this, because that's how you get taught with handwriting, right? But the thing is, you have to remember your basic strokes. So you have to think of it like an entry stroke. There's an entry stroke, there's an ascender loop, and then there's the exit stroke. Which means that where the lines cross is not here, it should be up here at the waistline. Ascender, baseline, descender. Because this is like handwriting, this is calligraphy. So essentially what you're doing is that you're going up with an entry stroke, you're lifting your pencil, your pen, your tool, and then you're going back down again, and you're going out. So it's kind of like a little wing. And then you're turning and then pulling it back and then up again. So you're crossing where you had lifted. So even though you're not going straight through like this, it looks like you are, because you shouldn't be crossing down here, you should be crossing at the waistline. So essentially it's this line, and then you're going like out again, and then I'll do this line here, then it's kind of like this. So it's this plus this equals your letter L. And I'll do it with a pen. So we're going up, And then we're bumping it over, and then we're going down, and then we're going back up again. So up, and then down, and then up again. So, like I said, I kind of like to think about it in the separate strokes versus like this is a letter L. Like this is an entry stroke, an ascender loop going down, and then we're going into an exit stroke. I find that this can sometimes be easier for people to wrap their brains around, because if you're thinking about it like an L, you're going to want to do it like your hand automatically wants you to do it, right? So that's the L. The next one is the H. So it's going to be the same concept for that looped ascender, which is you're going to do your entry stroke, then you're going to do an ascender loop and all the way down. But instead of going back up again, you're going up, you're going down, and then you're stopping. And then you're doing a compound curve. So this is going to be here, then you're going to bump over a bit, come down, and you're crossing at the waistline. You're going to square that bottom when I'm using a pen. You're going to come back up and do a compound curve. Ooh, that one was a bit weird. Let me do that again. Up, over, and like that. So let me do it one more time in one shot, and then I'll grab my pen. So kind of like that. So we're not just doing it in one shot. We are doing it here, and I'm lifting a bit, I'm coming over, and I'm going down. I lift, up, compound curve, like that. So I'll do it with my pen. So we're going, let me just adjust my angle. There we go. Up, entry stroke, ascender loop, bringing that down, squaring the bottom. So I tend to leave a tiny little space right here. I don't quite touch the downstroke here. That's mostly a habit that I have because sometimes my ink is really wet and I don't want to pull the ink up into here, because then you'll get a dark spot at the bottom like you can see on camera right now. That's usually why I don't do that. I leave a little tiny space. Depending on who your teacher is, some people don't care, some people say you have to, some people say you don't. Doesn't really matter too much, but like I'll at least give you the reason as to why I do. So yeah, so like that, up. We're squaring it off. We're making sure also, as we're turning my little clock up here, at around 11 o'clock, I'm starting to press, and then I'm going to be consistent pressure from about like halfway down the ascender, in the ascender section down to the baseline here, and from here to here should be an equal width, which means that I'm an equal pressure all the way down. So and then I'm going to do my compound curve. This is a little bit curved. It should have been more straight, but for the purposes of this, it's not bad, because here and here should be an equal width. And I personally aim for about an equal width of the ascender loop to be about the same-ish width of these guys. I prefer those type of proportions. I'm actually not sure if I'm trying to remember if that's just a me thing or if I actually learned that from someone, because I literally don't remember now. That's how that's my rule of thumb for myself, because I guess I like those proportions personally. So let's do that one more time and see if I can make it so it's not so rounded. Down. There we go. That would have been better if I would have hit the baseline, but I didn't. That's all right. Like if I was on a computer or a program, I would just go like double tap and fix that right away. But it is what it is. So we're doing that one. then the next one is a K. So there's like 3 off the top of my head, different variations of the letter K that I know of. I know that there's a lot more. I just know 3 of them. So I'll start with this one. So they all start with that loop. Like I said, it's letter group number 2, which is the loop letters. So we're starting here. And we're going to start like we did with the H. And then, yeah, we square this off here. So then there's this one, which is like a little dot. You're going down, and then you pull it back up. And this is kind of like a mini compound curve there. That also wasn't fantastic. Up, down, here, there, and then there we go. There's also this one, which is that ascender loop. And here, it's like you're kind of making a small R in there. It's like a little loop and then a little compound curve, and you're bringing it back up again. Or ascender loop down, and then you're pulling it, and then you're doing that little compound curve again. So there's a bunch. Let me do that with a pen. So entry stroke, ascender loop, down, square it off. This guy, I don't know which one this is. Like honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this one. I just know that it exists. Usually with my students, the one I give them to do, because I find this one is a little bit of an easier pen manipulation when you're just learning. So you kind of pull it like a flick, and then you do a little compound curve, and that's the shape that's in here. Or entry stroke, ascender loop down, and then we're doing that like, it looks like a little R. This one I find can be challenging for people who are new, and the reason why is because there is a lot of ink that's right here. So if you're heavy-handed, this can end up looking really dark and like a pool of ink just dumped itself right here. So it can be a little like risky. I want to say dangerous, like I'm James Bond. But it can be a little bit riskier of one that I find. So I know when I was learning, I didn't like that one because I had the heaviest hand known to mankind. I wasn't a huge fan. But I'll go through them again. So up, here, and then, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of that one. I have a hard time with that one too. Maybe that's why I don't like it, because I have a hard time with it. So I'm completely biased. This one is like that flick, and then we're doing the compound curve again, and then entry stroke, ascender loop, and then it's kind of like an R, and then we're going up again. So again, I don't know if you notice, but I'm not touching again. For the same reason I explained with the H, I find sometimes, depending on how wet or gloopy my ink is, or whatever the paper is, I try not to touch the stem over here, literally because like I don't want to pull the ink into my stroke. I'd prefer to try and keep it pretty clean and not risk getting like a blob of ink in the middle of my paper. So there's that one. And then the last one of the loop letters is the letter E. So as you can see, it is looped, definitely. There's that little loop in here. But I know when you're doing handwriting, this is more the one that people will do, or just when they're writing normally, that's an E. But when it's like this, it's kind of like not at the right angle, which is why if you saw when I did this guy, it's an entry stroke, we're lifting, we're moving it over kind of like the L. We're doing over and then up again, I'm sorry. Like that. So it has the illusion of being one stroke, but it's actually two separate ones. So we're going entry stroke, like lifting a bit, moving it over, pulling down, and then back up and away. And I will do that. So entry stroke till about, I'd say, halfway between your X height. Then I'm starting from here and I'm moving it up, and then I'm pulling down and then going back up again. So if I were to write my name, Erin, instead of doing it like that. Like I find that because it looks weird, it like the proportion of that E looks strange. This looks better versus this one. Yeah, so that's the E. So I'll do them all in a row. Let's see if I can do this in one shot. We're gonna keep our fingers crossed. All right, so we have our L. We have our H. We have our multiple Ks. K number 1. K number 2. K number 3. And then our letter E. There we go. So these ones are the put that brightness up a little bit too high. There we go. The loop letters. That L sucked, but you know, there we go. Oh, actually, something else too, which is good to take a look for. Let me see. Let me get a colored marker. Here we go. That's not an aggressive red, but a colored one. So something that when you're learning that I try and point out to people is when you're doing letter groups like letter group 2, the looped letters, what we're looking out for as well is consistency in your loops. So this one and this one and this one and this one and this one should all, like when you're hiding the bottom here, they should all look like they're the same. So I can tell you right now, this one doesn't, because it's looped forward. this one here is a bit too wide on the top. Because sometimes that's honestly easiest is like hide the bottom and you're just looking at the loops. So this one here is a bit narrow. This one's a bit wide here. This one's not bad. This one's a bit narrow, and then this one is like curving, which it shouldn't be doing. So that's something to kind of look out for. When you're doing it with the E, this might need to be like its own separate exercise where you're just doing like a bunch of E's in a row and seeing how consistent you can be with them, instead of just, you know, doing a couple and then being like, oh yeah, it's fine. But like kind of going through and kind of doing some of those exercises and trying to figure out like where your improvement can be. Like I've been doing calligraphy for years now, and I still am going like, oh yeah, no, this is not super great, whatever. But it's good for me to know these things as well. Like I'm not perfect. I'm always trying to improve on what I'm doing. So it's a good rule of thumb as well to take a look at. Trying to decide if I want to go, because letter group 3 has much more letters and it's going to run a long time, and I'm teaching right after this, so I don't want to run into like class time. So I'm trying to think if there would be something else that might be useful for those of us who are learning. So let's see, it would be that one. I'm actually not sure. Is there anyone have any questions or anything like that? Because I can do some like answering of questions if you want to do that as well. Anyone who's watching. If not, if people are just lurking, that's also totally fine. But like my biggest recommendation, I would say, when trying to learn something, if any of you guys are here because you want to learn, is like take your time, be kind to yourself. Don't try and rush through trying to learn calligraphy. Like it's a thing that takes practice, right? No one is a master penman overnight, and I mean, if you just wanted to like have nicer writing, that's also perfectly fine. You don't need to have these big, huge, lofty goals. But sometimes just like doing exercises, like just doing a bunch of L's on a page, can be really nice and relaxing and really therapeutic, honestly. Or it can be for me. I don't know if anyone else is like that, but it definitely can be for me. Actually, let me pull up letter group 1. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just do the whole alphabet as well, and then you can see where we're going with this. Oh, hey, Treetop. Oh, you're lurking because, okay, fair. That's cool. Lurking is great. I'm cool with lurking. I lurk a lot. Your handwriting is atrocious because, oh, my actual handwriting is horrific. I can barely read my own handwriting. It's a very different muscle that you're using, because calligraphy is very slow. It's it's much more methodical than like my actual handwriting, which is like very intense. But I get it. I get it, Treetop. I understand you. I get you on like a personal level. Because you would think after doing calligraphy for a little while that my handwriting would have improved. I think it's actually gotten worse, like, to be 100% honest. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do the whole alphabet. I think that'll be an interesting little demo. And if you have any questions or anything, you can feel free to stop me and then ask. Well, stop me. Type in chat and then I will respond. Like you can be like, hey, Erin, but actually like physically stop me. Give me just 1 second. I'm losing a bit of my light, so I'm going to try and adjust my camera. Let's see here. Nope, that did not work at all. Ah, there we go. That's a bit better. because I have a window in front of me. My blinds are closed, but light still comes in. So, and the sun is setting right now because it's the afternoon. It's 4:30 where I am. So the light tends to change in the afternoon when I'm streaming. Oh, yeah, I would love for you to do that. That would be so cool. A pilot cosmopolitan. I don't know what that is. Hold on a second. Hold on. I'm going to do a little Googly search. Oh, it's like a fountain pen. Yeah. Okay, cool. Very cool. Yeah, you can do most of the exercises and stuff that I'm doing. Because I don't know if all fountain pens do that thin and thick. Some do, some don't. I don't have any fountain pens myself. But most of the exercises and stuff that I do, you can do with a fountain pen for sure. Absolutely. I can all of the writing that I'm doing, if yours doesn't do the thin and the thick, like that your tines don't separate the way that like a dip pen does, you can absolutely do all of these things monoline, i.e. with no thin and thick. If that's something that's interesting to you. Because I can absolutely understand like the self-care aspect of taking time for yourself to do something. It's literally what I used to do all the time was I would come home from work and legitimately just like sit down for like 2 hours and just write the letter A. Like it was crazy. Oh, and it does have a separating nib. Cool. So you can you can totally do what I'm doing. That's awesome. I'll zoom in a little bit more. There we go. We'll get into this when we get into Magic Skills in a few weeks or like a month. I don't remember exactly how I had planned it, but this line right here for the Magic Skills is a lot of people refer to this as the line of universal beauty. So, just so you know. The letter D is like literally so freaking hard. It is a little bit ridiculous. That's better. Actually, when you said the pilot pen, I wasn't sure if you meant. So I have pilot pens, but mine are pilot parallel, which is actually I'll show you. Which are these guys that have a flat, broad-edged nib to them, which are fun. If you don't want to do dip pen for a broad edge calligraphy, these are a fun portable option. So it's like, oh, you might do these guys because that's fun. I don't really do broad edge calligraphy myself personally. I have there's a 4-pack you can get. They're called Pilot Parallel pens. There we go. and they're various widths. So this guy's the big boy. It's at 6mm. I can show you if you like. I don't mind. If anything, it's my pleasure. So like, they do lines like this. So I don't really do broad edge calligraphy. I've learned italics. I am not a master of italics, but that's kind of the line making that you can do with the Pilot Parallel. So these are fun. This is, like I said, this is a 6mm one. So this is the big boy. They're very portable if you don't want to bring like a loose what's the word I'm looking for? Like a loose ink, like in a pot with you, like an inkwell. These are good for like travel. Of course, I pick. Here we go. I'll do a letter B. It's a little bit easier to do. Yeah, this script is called Italics. Again, I'm not the best at it, so you know, there's a lot of people who are gonna be like way better at this. I don't specialize in broad edge calligraphy, so, but this is like, I'm not the best, but you know, you can kind of get the vibe there of what it looks like. I'm trying to think of like what's a fun font, like fun script font that I can show. Because I have this guy, which is a book of ornamental alphabets, ancient and medieval, and like this doesn't have italics in it, but it does have some like fun, chunky scripts that if you want to just kind of play around with, you totally can. And that can totally be done with a Pilot Parallel pen. But I have this book from Speedball, which is a good one. Has all different types of scripts inside. And here, actually, I can show you what italics looks like. So this is the italic script. Like I said, I'm not the best at doing it, so, but like this is a great exemplar of what italics is supposed to look like, which you can do with like the Pilot Parallels. Again, if you don't want to bring an ink pot with you. Oh, thank you for saying it's neat. But if you like writing, this is a fun it's a fun book that you can kind of look at and see different type of scripts. Just as a nice it's a nice reference book to just kind of take a look at. So yeah, this is American Cursive. So a lot of times people will get taught this and then they'll go into Copperplate calligraphy and they'll want to automatically do things like this. And I'm like, it's not the same, but like I understand that the instinct to do so for sure. Spencerian is fun. Spencerian is really, really fun. Yeah. American Cursive. It's usually what people learn in school is something like this. Spencerian is really beautiful. I started learning that this year. So still with a pointed pen, but like very different from the Copperplate, which I'm teaching right now, which is English roundhand, more or less, with so there you go, there's the principles and the letters, what I'm going through now. But there are some differences between roundhand and engrosser. Like I don't know the exact differences myself, but like there are differences between engrosser's, roundhand, and Copperplate that I'm like I I have not delved into that far yet. It's a little bit crazy. There's a lot of pointed pen variations and like different things you can do, and anyways, very fun. You can really, if you like calligraphy, you can go as deep or as surface as you want with it. It's quite funny actually. And this one is it's a bit smaller. Do some fun mark making with this guy. But yeah, it's cool stuff. It's cool stuff. And I'll finish my my alphabet. I know the name of when you're doing an alphabet. I refer to it as an abécédaire because I'm in Quebec, so I refer to it in French. I actually don't know what the English equivalent to that is. Maybe it's the same thing. Because usually when you do like an alphabet and you put it somewhere, like, or you do like A is for apple, B is for bubble or whatever, like that's in French it's called an abécédaire, but I don't know what it's called in English. I don't know if anyone knows in the chat or if you know, Tree Talk, but for me that's like I've never looked it up. It's a quick Google search away, I'm sure. Okay, letter F. It's so nice to not have a box right here, like knocking into my like in my way. Oh, it's so good. I'm so happy I have an arm. X, Y, and Z. And I'll do one pangram, and I think I'll end the stream. I'll do the regular pangram of the quick brown fox jumps over the very lazy dog. I find pangrams are useful to do when learning as well, because they force you to do the letter connections and use letters that don't come up often. Like Q's don't come up super often. Neither do X's in English, but in other languages like French, X comes up like all the bloody time, and I hate the letter. Letter X is like she's hard. So thank you for watching as I wrote quickly under my little pangram. I'm going to, there we go. Thank you for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. I am going to end the stream. And yeah, I appreciate you popping in. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll be back next Thursday and we will tackle letter group number 3. So yeah, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, you know, as long as nothing happens. I think knock on wood. And yeah, thank you, Treetop, and anyone else who's hanging out in there, you know, lurking, which is cool. No need to unlurk yourself. But yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope that it's great. That's it. All right. Bye, guys.